Sometimes the love you're searching for has been right in front of you all along. James Sullivan stared at his phone, the dating app glowing mockingly in the darkness of his apartment. Another failed match. Another conversation that fizzled out after 3 messages. At 34, with a 7-year-old daughter and a demanding job, finding love again seemed impossible. Little did he know, his life was about to change forever, not because of any dating app, but because of a simple favor for his boss. Hey everyone! If you're enjoying this story, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more heartwarming content that'll remind you love can find us in the most unexpected places. Your support means everything. The morning alarm blared at 5:30 a.m., as it did every weekday. James groaned, silencing it quickly to avoid waking Emma, his daughter, who slept in the room across the hall. The apartment was small, just 2 bedrooms in a modest complex on the outskirts of Portland, but it was home. Photos of Emma lined the walls, her first day of kindergarten, last summer's beach trip, the 2 of them making silly faces at the camera. The space was filled with evidence of a father who tried his best, even when his best felt inadequate. James shuffled to the kitchen, starting the coffee maker before heading to the shower. The routine was clockwork: shower, dress, wake Emma, make breakfast, pack lunch, drop her at school, then head to Horizon Marketing where he'd worked as a graphic designer for the past 5 years. The morning passed in its usual blur, and by 8:45, he was settling at his desk, opening his laptop while greeting coworkers with a tired smile. "Morning, Sullivan. You look like you could use another coffee." The voice belonged to Olivia Chen, the company's marketing director and James's direct supervisor. At 36, Olivia was the youngest director in the company's history, having climbed the ranks through sheer talent and determination. She stood in his doorway, impeccably dressed in a charcoal pantsuit, her dark hair falling in soft waves around her shoulders. "That obvious, huh?" James ran a hand through his disheveled brown hair. "Emma had trouble sleeping again?" Olivia asked, genuine concern in her voice. James nodded. "Nightmare about her mom. Happens sometimes." Olivia's expression softened. Everyone at the office knew James's story, how his wife, Sarah, had died from complications during childbirth, leaving him to raise Emma alone. What they didn't know was how the grief still ambushed him at random moments, or how terrified he was of failing his daughter. "The Henderson campaign needs those mock-ups by 3, Olivia said, changing the subject. "Think you can manage?" "Already halfway done," James replied with a tired smile. "That's why you're my favorite," she winked, turning to leave before pausing. "Oh, and the team's going for drinks after work. You should join us." James gave his standard response, "Thanks, but I've got Emma tonight." Olivia nodded, understanding as always. "Raincheck, then." As she walked away, James couldn't help but notice the way her colleagues watched her. Olivia commanded respect, but there was something else, a distance she maintained. In the 3 years she'd been his boss, he'd never heard her mention dating or relationships. She was brilliant, driven, and completely focused on her career. At company events, she arrived alone and left early. James had always wondered about her story but never dared to ask. The day progressed normally until late afternoon when James delivered the Henderson mock-ups to Olivia's office. Her door was partially open, and he could see her staring intently at her computer screen, frustration evident on her face. "Knock knock," he said, tapping lightly on the door frame. "Henderson mock-ups, as promised." Olivia looked up, quickly minimizing whatever was on her screen. "Perfect timing. Come in." James placed the folder on her desk and turned to leave when he heard her sigh heavily. "Everything okay?" he asked. Olivia hesitated, then gestured to the chair across from her desk. "Can I ask you something personal?" James sat down, curious. "Sure. You've done the whole online dating thing, right?" The question caught him off guard. Yeah. Not very successfully, but I've tried." Olivia bit her lip, then turned her screen toward him. What am I doing wrong? On the screen was a dating profile, her dating profile. The photo showed Olivia at what appeared to be a business conference, looking professional but stiff. Her bio read like a resume: marketing director. MBA from Northwestern. Enjoys efficiency and strategic planning. James couldn't help but laugh, then immediately regretted it when he saw her expression. I'm sorry, it's just. That bad? She asked, wincing. It's very, you at work, he said diplomatically. Not you as a person. Olivia leaned back in her chair. My sister's been on my case about being too married to my job. She set up this profile for me 3 months ago, and I've had exactly 2 conversations, both with men who stopped responding when I mentioned my position. James studied her face, seeing vulnerability he'd never witnessed before. Can I be honest? Please. This profile says I'll schedule our relationship between meetings. Where's the woman who brought cupcakes for the entire office on her birthday? Or who stayed late to help the interns with their presentations? The one who cried during the company screening of Inside Out? Olivia's eyes widened. You saw that? You're human, Olivia. Your profile doesn't show that. She stared at him for a long moment, then pushed her keyboard toward him. Fix it. What? You know me professionally. You're a designer who understands visual communication. And you've actually dated this century. She checked her watch. I have a meeting in 10 minutes. Work your magic. Before James could protest, she was gathering her materials and heading for the door. She paused before leaving. And James? Thank you. For the next hour, James sat in Olivia's office, feeling strangely intimate as he rewrote his boss's dating profile. He selected a different photo, one from the company picnic where she was laughing, hair slightly windblown, looking relaxed and genuine. He rewrote her bio to highlight her quick wit, her passion for supporting local businesses, and her secret talent for making incredible dumplings, something he discovered at the office potluck. He mentioned her love of obscure documentaries and how she volunteered teaching marketing skills to high school students. When Olivia returned, she read through his changes silently, her expression unreadable. Too much? James asked nervously. No, she said quietly. It's just accurate. I didn't realize you noticed all that. You're not just the boss, Olivia. You're a person. A good one. She smiled, a genuine smile that reached her eyes. Thank you, James. Really. He stood to leave, feeling suddenly awkward. Happy to help. Good luck with the dating scene. As he reached the door, Olivia called after him. James? He turned back. Why not take me out? The question hung in the air between them. James blinked, certain he'd misheard. I'm sorry. Olivia stood, smoothing her skirt nervously. You know me. You clearly see me as a person, not just a title. And I've always thought you were. She paused, searching for the right word, special. I'm your employee, James said, his heart racing. There are rules about that. Actually, Olivia replied, I checked the handbook when I found myself thinking about you too often. There's no policy against it as long as we disclose it to HR. James stared at her, processing her words. You've thought about me? More than I should admit. Her cheeks flushed slightly. The way you are with Emma, how you never miss a deadline despite everything on your plate, how you remember everyone's coffee order. She shook her head. I've dated ambitious men who saw me as competition and insecure men who couldn't handle my success. You're neither. James felt like the ground had shifted beneath him. Olivia, It's okay if you're not interested, she said quickly. We can pretend this never happened. It's not that, James replied. It's Emma. She has to be my priority. Olivia's expression softened. I know. That's part of what I admire about you. The silence between them was charged with possibility. Friday, James said finally. My mom can watch Emma. If you're serious. Olivia's smile could have lit the entire building. I'm serious. Friday arrived with a flurry of nerves. James had changed his outfit 3 times before his mother arrived to watch Emma. Daddy's going on a date, Emma announced as she opened the door, her voice a mixture of confusion and excitement. Is that right? His mother asked, raising an eyebrow at James. It's just dinner, he mumbled, feeling like a teenager again. With his boss, Emma added helpfully. The pretty lady from his work pictures. James felt his face heat up. He hadn't realized Emma had noticed how often Olivia appeared in his work photos. Well, his mother said, a knowing smile spreading across her face. It's about time. The restaurant was a small Italian place downtown, intimate without being overtly romantic. When James arrived, Olivia was already seated, wearing a simple blue dress that made her look softer somehow, less like the powerhouse executive and more like the woman he'd glimpsed in rare, unguarded moments. Hi, she said, looking almost shy. Hi, he replied, suddenly aware of how long it had been since he'd been on a real date. You look beautiful. The conversation flowed more easily than either expected. Away from the office, they discovered shared tastes in music, a mutual love of hiking, and the same dry sense of humor. Olivia told him about growing up as the daughter of Chinese immigrants, the pressure to succeed, and how she'd fought to be taken seriously in a male-dominated industry. James shared stories of Emma's early years, the terror and joy of single parenthood, and how he'd found purpose in creating a life for his daughter. I've never told anyone at work this, Olivia said as they shared tiramisu, but I almost quit last year. Got offered a position in New York, more money, bigger title. Why didn't you take it? James asked. She looked at him directly. I liked the team I'd built. The culture. And honestly, I liked seeing you every day. The confession hung between them, honest and vulnerable. I'm glad you stayed, James said softly. When he walked her to her car, the night air crisp around them, James felt a tension he hadn't experienced in years. Standing beside her vehicle, Olivia looked up at him, her eyes reflecting the streetlights. I had a really good time, she said. Me too. Would it be completely inappropriate if I kissed my employee right now? She asked, a playful smile on her lips. James laughed. Probably. But I won't report you. The kiss was gentle, tentative, a question rather than a statement. When they pulled apart, both were smiling. I should warn you, James said, dating a single dad is complicated. There will be cancelled plans when Emma gets sick, parent-teacher conferences, and Disney movies. Lots of Disney movies. I like complicated, Olivia replied. And I happen to know all the words to Let It Go. The weeks that followed were a careful dance of professional boundaries and personal connection. At work, they maintained their usual dynamic, though colleagues noticed the lingering glances and private smiles. After hours, they built something new, dinners at James's apartment with Emma, weekend outings to the park, quiet evenings talking after Emma had gone to bed. Emma, initially wary of this new person in their carefully constructed world, gradually warmed to Olivia. The turning point came one rainy Saturday when Olivia taught Emma how to make dumplings, the same recipe her grandmother had taught her. The kitchen became a mess of flour and laughter, and James watched from the doorway as his daughter and the woman he was falling for bonded over pleated dough and secret ingredients. But the path wasn't without obstacles. 3 months into their relationship, James received a call from Emma's school. She'd gotten into a fight with another student who had teased her about not having a mother. She's not my mom, Emma had shouted, referring to Olivia. The principal reported that Emma had been inconsolable afterward. That evening, after Emma had gone to bed, James called Olivia, his voice heavy with concern. "Maybe we're moving too fast," he said. Emma's confused. "Do you want to take a step back?" Olivia asked, her voice carefully neutral. James closed his eyes, picturing life without Olivia's laughter filling his apartment, without her thoughtful texts throughout the day, without the way she made him feel whole again. "No," he admitted. "But Emma has to come first." "I agree," Olivia said. "Which is why I think we should talk to her. Together." The next day, they sat with Emma in the living room, surrounded by her stuffed animals and art projects. "Am I in trouble?" Emma asked, her small face serious. "No, sweetheart," James assured her. "We just want to talk about what happened yesterday." "About Olivia," Emma said, looking down at her hands. "Yes," James nodded. "How do you feel about Olivia spending time with us?" Emma was quiet for a moment. "I like when she comes over. She makes you smile more." James felt his heart constrict. "She makes me happy, Em. But you make me happy too, and you're the most important person in my life. Always." "Billy said if you marry Olivia, she'll be my new mom," Emma blurted out. "But I already have a mom. She's in heaven, but she's still my mom." Olivia leaned forward, her eyes gentle. "Emma, no one could ever replace your mom. Not ever. Your dad tells me she was amazing and brave and loved you very much." "She had my same eyes," Emma said softly. "I know," Olivia nodded. "I've seen the pictures. And no matter what happens between your dad and me, your mom will always be your mom." "But what are you, then?" Emma asked, confusion clear on her face. Olivia considered the question carefully. "Right now, I'm someone who cares about you and your dad very much. Someone who wants to be in your lives, if that's okay with you. Not as a replacement for anyone, but as an addition. Like how Dad says our family is small but mighty." Emma asked. "Exactly like that," Olivia smiled. Emma thought for a moment, then nodded decisively. "Okay. But you have to promise to keep teaching me Chinese words and how to make dumplings." "Deal," Olivia said, offering her pinky finger, which Emma solemnly hooked with her own. That night, after Emma was asleep, James and Olivia sat on his small balcony, a blanket wrapped around their shoulders against the autumn chill. "Thank you," James said. "For understanding about Emma. For being patient." Olivia rested her head on his shoulder. "She's part of who you are, James. The best part." "I never thought I'd find this again," he admitted. "After Sarah died, I thought that was it. One love per lifetime. And now?" James turned to face her. "Now I think maybe the heart is bigger than we realize. That there's room for new love without diminishing what came before." 6 months into their relationship, Olivia was offered another promotion, this time to Chief Marketing Officer. The catch: it would mean longer hours, more travel, and even greater responsibility. "Take it," James said immediately when she told him. "You've earned it." Olivia hesitated. "It will change things between us. I'll have less time." "We'll make it work," James assured her. "Emma and I are pretty adaptable." But the reality proved more challenging than anticipated. Olivia's new position demanded evening calls with international clients, weekend strategy sessions, and frequent trips to the company's offices in Chicago and London. James found himself once again navigating life as essentially a single parent, while Olivia struggled with the guilt of her absence. The breaking point came after Olivia missed Emma's school play due to a last-minute client emergency. She arrived at James's apartment late that night, exhausted and apologetic. "I'm so sorry," she said, collapsing onto his couch. "The Singapore team had a crisis, and by the time we resolved it, the play was over."